So I have been helping a a young lady, who claims she was molested by an ISKCON guru named Lokanath Swami. And this incident happened some 30 years ago. But after she was molested, a committee was formed by the ISKCON GBC. I think Mukunda Swami, Rabindra Swarup, Sridhar Swami, and others were on this panel to investigate the problem. And what happened evidently is that they promised the victim and the family of the victim that Lokanath Swami would not have a prominent position in ISKCON after this incident, that he would be sidelined and maybe given some lesser service, but he would no longer be the worshipped guru of ISKCON. So they more or less promised the victim and her family that they would deal with the situation, and there was no need for them to go to the police. Now, they wanted to go to the police and report this incident to the authorities. Now, according to her testimony, the only reason the parents did not go to the police is the GBC leaders, the ISKCON managers, assured the family that they would deal with this situation internally. They would fix the problem. Lokanath was not going to be any more promoted as a guru in ISKCON. But shortly after this promise was made, Lokanath reemerged as the guru of ISKCON. So they didn't keep their promise. It doesn't even look like they made hardly any effort to keep their promise. And they brought forward their own experts, quote unquote, to evaluate the situation. And their experts said, for example, that Lokanath shouldn't be around children, which is, well, it's like saying he's a guru, but maybe we should not allow him to be around children anymore. Well, why is that? That's because they knew he has a problem. But anyway, so he goes on forward being the guru, and later on, the victim, this lady, she writes a letter to me explaining the whole situation. You know, she was molested by a guru. She was told this person's no longer going to be a guru, but then he reemerges as a guru, so she's very upset. They didn't keep the agreement, and she feels violated, double violated now. She was molested on the one hand, and then they promised her that this would be dealt with, and it wasn't dealt with. So it's like a double sort of aggression against this young woman. So she's very upset, and her parents are very upset, and so on and so forth. So it wasn't handled properly. But if we look at ISKCON overall, they don't handle molesting cases well overall. There's been many molesting cases that were just swept under the carpet, which is why I helped victims put together a $400 million lawsuit against the GBC. And there were allegedly, supposedly, thousands of victims. No one knows for sure. When the lawsuit was filed, 1,000 victims signed up, and supposedly another 1,000 wanted to sign up, but the lawyer cut the case down to 500 victims because he just said ISKCON won't have the money to pay for a larger number of victims. But in any case, you know, they don't handle child molesting very well. That's quite evident from this lawsuit. So she is simply another example of how they sweep these types of things under the carpet and continue on promoting the leaders of the child molesting regime without considering the problems they're creating for the victim. So after this incident, the GBC leaders of ISKCON had a series of emergency meetings, which happens every time. Every time one of their gurus falls down, like when Jai Tirtha was falling down, they had all these emergency meetings. Everybody was flying all over the world. What are we going to do with the Jayatirtha situation? And then they had the same problem with Bhagavan, emergency meetings. Then they had Ramachar's problems, emergency meetings. So they spend literally hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars flying all over the place, time after time after time after time, having all these emergency meetings, how to patch up and fix up their fallen down guru problems. This guy's falling down, that guy's falling down, the other guy's falling down. Let's have an emergency meeting. So they had this meeting about Lokanath, and supposedly, allegedly, a letter of apology was written by Lokanath Swami, combined with Bhakti Charu and Badri Narayan and Amarendra. I'm not sure who was there exactly, but supposedly those were the people on this committee. A letter of apology was written to the family, but now, all of a sudden, today in 2021, the followers of Lokanath are saying, well, he never agreed to that letter. He never signed that letter. He never had anything to do with that letter. So wait a minute. An apology was made, supposedly, and now you're retracting your apology. You never even made this apology. And someone forged Lokanath's signature. Oh my God, well, why didn't anyone say anything? So for 30 years, this letter has been sitting around. It was a forged signature, supposedly, allegedly. Well, why didn't anybody say anything? Why didn't Lokanath say, hey, wait a minute, I didn't agree to apologize for anything. I didn't do anything wrong. There's nothing to apologize for. This is a forged letter. Why was this forged letter never addressed by Lokanath or his followers until now? Now, all of a sudden, it's a forged letter. So that seems very mysterious in itself. They're now claiming that this whole incident was never handled properly by the GBC. Well, why did Lokanath get voted in as a GBC guru if the GBC are a bunch of bogus people? So now they're trying to blame the GBC for mishandling the situation and misrepresenting the situation. Simultaneously, Lokanath is a guru of the GBC. Now, what is the official position of the ISKCON GBC regarding God's guru successors? God is the all-pure, almighty personality. He has no contamination. There's not a trace of contamination in the Supreme Being. But his successors, his guru successors, are not pure at all, according to the GBC, according to the ISKCON GBC. God is pure, but his successors are perhaps, if not regularly, engaged in illicit sex and many other deviations. So one of the spokesmen of the GBC, Jayadvaita Swami, summed it up that their gurus can be found, perhaps, sometimes, engaged in illicit sex with men, women, and children. So he's the successor to God, and in fact, some of the Lokanath Swami people wrote to tell me that he is absorbing their sins. Oh, he's taking our sins, Prabhu. Why are you criticizing the man who's taking our sins? Oh, he's like Jesus. He's another Jesus, Lokanath Swami. Wait a minute, he touched a young girl, but he's as good as Jesus. He's in a guru parampara, which has illicit sex with men, women, and children, which is all as good as God. How is that as good as God? That's not as good as God. That's not even the basic level of following religion. Even the ordinary man who sends around the collection plate at the church is not engaged in illicit sex with men, women, and children. It follows a higher standard than their so-called messiahs, so-called good as Jesus, so-called successors to God. Now, Lokanath is a part of that group. He knows that their group has illicit sex with men, women, and children problems. And yet, he participates and gets voted into this chain of gurus, quote unquote, from God, which is full of debauchees and illicit sex and drinking vodka and pornography swamis. And someone claims that one of their gurus was trying to have sex with a cat. And that is the guy they buried in a samadhi. Wait a minute. He's a pedophile. He's maybe having sex with cats. So he gets buried in a samadhi. A samadhi means he's absorbed fully in God consciousness. That's what samadhi is. Samadhi means you're absorbed in God consciousness. So they find this pedophile guy who might be having sex with cats, and then they say, he's in samadhi with God. Wait, that's not possible. So why is Lokanath allowing all this juxtaposing of deviations with God and God's successors? This makes no sense. God is pure. There's no impure in God. Therefore, there is no impure in the successors to God or the representatives of God, or even the guy who's sending around the collection plate in the church. He is more godly than their gurus, or all of their gurus put together, because they all agree to this principle that God's successors are often deviants. And they've created a whole bunch of rules and regulations for their deviating gurus. The guru is suspended. The guru is censured. The guru is monitored for deviation. And what's very ironic, they made a monitoring program at one time, and the people who were monitoring the guru were themselves deviating people. So we're going to have deviating people monitoring the deviating Messiah from heaven. That doesn't make any sense at all. Now, we have to look at this from my perspective. Maybe people should be wearing my boots for a little while and consider my position. Now, my position is, when I was 10 years old, I was eating hot dogs, hamburgers, pig's feet, maybe, I don't know, who knows. So I'm 10 years old, but I'm never thinking at some point I'm going to have to be lecturing to the big scholars and sadhus and yogis of India and telling them what their religion is supposed to be representing. How is it possible that some 10-year-old kid who's eating hot dogs and hamburgers would eventually have to be the person who has to come out and inform these India quote-unquote scholars and tell them, whoa, Krishna is God. Krishna is your God of your religion, and Krishna's representatives are as pure as Krishna, or they are not Krishna's representatives. That's very simple. They're either pure or they're not Krishna's representatives. That is the philosophy of the Vedas. That is the teachings of Krishna. Krishna says, Acharya mam viganyam. The Acharya is as pure as myself. He doesn't say the Acharya is illicit sex with men, women, and children, and cats, and touching young girls, and all the rest of it. That is not what Krishna says. Now, I know what Krishna says. Why don't they know what Krishna says? They don't know because they're motivated. They want something. So they're twisting the philosophy of Krishna. They're making it look like Krishna wants fools and idiots and debauchees to be worshipped as his successors. But Krishna never said he wanted that. Now, I know that. Why don't they know that? They do know that. They're just cheating people. This is intentionally cheating the public. They know better. They know that Krishna is pure and his representative has to be pure. They know that is the really ultimate philosophy of India. But they're making a lot of money from this whole thing. That's my opinion, and that's the opinion of many observers of this situation. They're promoting deviants as gurus because it has become a money-making business. Now, as soon as the whole problem comes up, we have to get rid of Lokanath. What is the objection? Immediately, oh, well, Prabhu, we're going to be losing donations. We're going to be losing people. We're going to be losing money. Oh, my God. Yeah, money. You're going to be losing money. You're going to be losing followers who are giving you the money. So it's all about the bucks, the money. We can't lose money. Well, when you lost Jayatirtha, you lost money. You lost thousands of people ran off to the Jayatirtha Peace Krishna's movement, and his zone went bankrupt. And they had to give up Krum Court and everything. When Bhagavan left, his zone went bankrupt. And Germany went bankrupt, and Austria went bankrupt, and this, that, and the other went bankrupt. Every time they lose a guru, they lose a lot of money. So that's their main concern. Oh, well, if we lose Lokanath, it's going to be another Jayatirtha thing. We're going to lose all these people, and we're going to lose all this money. So it's money that they're worried about mainly. So it is a business, mainly. It is not a spiritual institution following spiritual principles. So now some of the Lokanath followers are attacking me. They're writing to me, oh, you are just against the Indian people. Lokanath is an Indian. You're just attacking Lokanath because he's an Indian. And you are a Mleccha. You are a fallen person from the fallen Western society. Well, yeah, I am a Mleccha. I am fallen from the fallen society. But that's a blessing if you think about it, because in my Mleccha training, I was trained that Jesus is pure. And Jesus is pure because God is pure. And therefore, you have to be as pure as Jesus to be a representative of God. You can't just be some guy who's touching young girls and then claiming to be a pure person. That's not how this works. So I was blessed to be a Mleccha because I knew that God's successor has to be as pure as God. I knew that right away. So that is a blessing. But anyway, wait a minute. The victim of Lokanath is from India heritage. She is from an India family. So this is not about me attacking an Indian. This is about me defending an Indian. I'm defending a person from your India culture who was a young girl, 11 years old, and who was attacked by one of your messiahs. So I am defending India's culture, India's parampara, and an Indian female resident of Bharatvarsha. I'm defending your culture for you because you haven't got enough moral decency to defend your own culture and your own citizens and your own God named Krishna. You have no interest in defending your own God. Krishna is God. He is your God, supposedly. And then you wonder why India is in such dire mess all the time. Well, Prabhupada explains that. It is because you in India have rejected Krishna. Krishna is your God, he is your philosophy, and you have made a mockery of his program. And this is a classic case example. You're saying that Krishna's successors are deviants, if not pedophiles, if not orchestrators of murders, if not people who are having sex with cats, if not who knows what. You don't even care what happens in your so-called Guru Parampara. It just rambles on and on and on, one deviation after the next. But none of this has any connection to Krishna, the God of the universe. He is pure, always. His successors are pure, always. And we may or may not be pure, but we can never agree that God or his successors are impure. That's all. So I may be fallen, but I know, where is the light at the end of the tunnel? The light at the end of the tunnel is Krishna and Krishna's successors. At least I can see up. I can look up and see the light. I know where the light's coming from. The light is not coming from your illicit sex with men, women, and children guru parampara. That is darkness, and that whole thing goes to the lowest regions of the universe according to your own philosophy from India. Your scriptures say that false gurus are destined for the most obnoxious regions of the universe. That is what your own scriptures are saying. That means making false successors of Krishna is forbidden absolutely, and it takes one down to the lowest regions of the universe and the lowest species of life. That is the destiny of people who mix up deviations with Krishna and Krishna's successors. It is the most sinful activity according to your own philosophy. These false gurus are the most dangerous elements in human society because they lead human society to hell. That is what the scriptures of India say. So I may be a Mleccha or whatever I am, but I do have faith in the scriptures. I do believe that the scriptures are accurate. You are not allowed to juxtapose deviation with Krishna or Krishna's successors. I'm not allowed to do that. No one is allowed to do that. That is the absolute truth rule of all creation. And the leader of all creation is Krishna. And he only wants his pure representative to be worshipped as his pure representative and not a bunch of bogus people being worshipped as his representatives. That is not acceptable to Krishna. Never mind, it's not acceptable to me, a Mleccha. Now, when I was in Los Angeles helping put together the Wendell Turley lawsuit, Hridayananda Das Goswami was there, and he was standing in front of the temple all the time talking to a dozen women or more, and he would just give me the death glare, just stare at me and glare at me, because he knew I was recruiting people for the lawsuit. And one of the reasons I was getting people involved with the lawsuit is that at the time, some of the victims were committing suicide. So it was getting to be a very dire situation. People were actually dying as a result of Hridayananda's illicit sex with men, women, and children guru parampara, which had a big mass child molesting problem going on. So he had no time to talk to me, and at one point he even pushed me off the sidewalk because he knew I was on the sidewalk recruiting people to sign up for the lawsuit. So that infuriated him. But while he had no time to talk to me, he had hours and hours to talk to his legal defense team pals like Amarendra, who were helping defeat the children. I mean, that's what they were saying at the time. We're going to defeat these children. We're going to get our lawyers, and they hired a big San Fernando lawyer firm to help them defeat the victims. So the victims are committing suicide, and we're going to defeat the victims. That was the objective of their countering the victims and countering me. Now, a follower of Hridayananda has come forward just now and said, "Oh, we can't talk to you because you talk in absolute terms all the time. We don't like that." Well, child molesting is absolutely wrong. What do you mean we can't talk about absolute terms? Is there any good example of child molesting? No, it's wrong, it's bad, it's evil, it's absolute. It's like Krishna is absolute. Krishna is absolute truth. Child molesting is wrong. That's also absolute truth. Yes, these are absolute facts. Absolutely wrong to worship child molesters. Absolutely wrong to create a child molesting infrastructure. Absolutely wrong to bankrupt ISKCON by having ISKCON sued for mass child molesting. That's all on your plate. You guys orchestrated that. I'm simply a witness and an advocate for the victims. Now, one thing you can notice about these people, they often tell me, "Oh, Paranjan, you're just like the Christians. You want to have people worshiping a pure devotee. That's a bogus Christian idea. What? Prabhupada never said that worshiping Jesus is the bogus Christian idea. Anyway, so yeah, we shouldn't worship Jesus. Who are we going to worship instead? We're going to worship artificial Jesus who are having illicit sex with men, women, and children. How's that going to work? Yeah, we don't want to worship the real Jesus. We want to worship bogus, artificial Jesus. And then we'll have one after another of them fall down, left, right, center, falling into illicit sex, falling into drugs, falling into vodka drinking, drinking beer, shooting at occupied buildings with 3 guns. It never ends with these people. And now we have a child touching guru, no problem. We will vote in another guy. We will make some committee. We will make some amendments. We will make some adjustment. You can't adjust this stuff. It's wrong. It's bogus. It's not going to fly over the long haul. Anyway, I hope this helps. This is just a summary of some of the things that have been going on here. I just wanted to summarize my own situation in the end. As soon as I said that God's successors are pure people, I was banned, beaten, threatened with death, chased with baseball bats. My friends were beaten nearly to death. My friends were assassinated. That's how they deal with people who think Jesus is a pure devotee and people who are touching little children are not pure devotees. That is how this program has operated the whole time. And we think it's time for this to come to a conclusion, hopefully a happy conclusion, without any more people being beaten or killed. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Haribol.